From the heart of Broadway, here in historic downtown Cape Girardeau, it is the return of Mr. 100 and the 5-Star Man here on the Podzilla 1985 network. Hello, guys. My name is Shannon Young. I am going to be your host tonight. I am Mr. 100 for better or worse, and down at the end of the table is my lovely assistant, Mr. Asa Gray. He's a 5-Star Man.
Yes.
This is and I know you guys probably hear this a lot. This is the first time we've done Mr. 100 and the 5-Star Man since, let me find out here. So I feel like it's been a while again.
Because you did, I want to believe it's been a month.
It's been a month.
Okay.
The last one we did was when we talked about the urban legends state by state.
Oh, yeah. Oh, dear Lord.
Which you were not really a big fan of. I thought it was great.
No, it was that I just didn't know if that was going to be entertaining for people to listen to us just kind of ramble about these weird ass urban legend things.
You say that, and then like 2 Thursdays ago, Jesse literally devoted the entire show to election information. Mm-hmm. Not like really our opinions on it, but just where to vote and how to vote and stuff like that. It was extremely educational. I don't know if it pulled the ratings in or not.
Yeah, but that's more important than
urban legends?
Yeah.
I disagree about that. I think Charlie No Face would disagree with you about that. So we had some bad news yesterday. And it's, I'm sure you guys have heard about it. We're going to talk about it a little bit tonight, amongst other things. But Stan Lee passed away at the age of 95. And I know a lot of people are mourning it. And you should mourn it. Obviously, he was a great, great man who did some fantastic things and one of the biggest creative geniuses of our time. But I'd like to remind you guys that he was 95. Mm-hmm. You know, this isn't like he died young and tragically like...
Out of nowhere type. Yeah.
This isn't Paul Walker, Anson Yelchin, he lived a full life, and dude had an incredible life, but it's still very sad. But I really feel like his life should be celebrated. And actually, we'll start off by talking about that. It never really occurred to me how death is so, I don't know, like funerals, stuff like that, the whole mourning thing. I wish I didn't mourn. Because no one I know that has ever died would have ever wanted me to feel sad about them passing.
Right.
Like when my mom passed away, when my father passed away, they would not have wanted me to cry as much as I did. And you can't help it, obviously. It's a human emotion. Mm-hmm. But I really wish we could change the thinking of less of, I'm so sad that they're gone, and more of a celebration of who they were and what they did, which I guess it kind of is. But there's so many dark undertones to it, or overtones.
I mean, there's a lot, at least with Stan Lee specifically, I feel like that we're getting more of the celebration of it's just like people are, writing posts and paying tribute to how his creations influenced them and how much they meant to them.
Yeah.
As opposed to just like, wow, I can't believe it. Really, really. I'm seeing more like inspirational thoughts coming out of this.
I've also
than,
seen
like,
some
depressing.
weird ones, though. There's a couple of strange ones, like the one where Thanos is... I only meant to, destroy half the universe, not all of it. Can I use the time stone on you, Stan? Question mark. That would just seem a little odd to me. Because he's not coming back, clearly.
I'm not a huge fan of the ones that are like, I've seen a couple photoshops of him like being dusted. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about those.
Yeah, I think Ace Hawkins had that as his picture. And I also don't know how I feel about those. Because that just, I don't know. That's weird. It's a little weird.
I feel like I'm seeing more of an outpouring of like I said, like inspirational, like this is what his creations meant to me and how much, him as a creator inspired other creators and content creators and stuff. So
I believe, I know he didn't do the first comic, obviously. He wasn't the original. He didn't create comic books.
Right.
But to a lot of people, he really kind of
May
did.
as well have.
Right. I did not know just how much he created. Like, it is staggering how many characters he actually created.
If you go to the Wikipedia, there's it's a category, characters created by Stan Lee.
Yes, I actually looked that up
on
today.
Wikipedia. Out of approximately 362 total. Now, granted,
not all of them are winners.
Not all of them are going to be winners, but and it is worth mentioning that there was kind of that whole controversy about him and Jack Kirby and Stan Lee getting credit for things that he didn't necessarily actually create, but he helped. But I mean, that's a whole other show.
Was there a particular character, if I remember correctly, that there was a big argument about?
Probably. Well, I mean, Batman was a huge one, which granted was clearly not Stan Lee or Jack Kirby, but that was a huge, because it was Bill Finger, and I'm totally blanking on the name of the other guy.
Tom Kane?
No. Tom King is writing Batman now.
No, Tom Kane.
Oh, Tom Kane, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were. I thought you were.
Sweat from my forehead.
I thought you said King, and I was like, no, he's currently writing Batman. I'm not entirely sure he was alive whenever Batman was created.
Oh, I thought I just showed my cards about how little I know about comics right there. If you look at the amount of characters that Stan Lee created, I mean, it's insane. And he created some of my absolute favorite characters, including Cyclops, Magneto, Spider-Man, Daredevil. He did not create Wolverine. Which
Bob Kane.
Bob Kane.
Tom didn't
Kane.
sound right.
Okay. Well, I was close though. I got half the name. But there's a lot of characters that he created. He did not create Wolverine, and that's my favorite part of him because I hate Wolverine. And now apparently they're giving them the Infinity Gauntlet. Did you see that?
Mm-mm.
The I don't know if it was a preview cover or what. I saw it on IGN, but it's the Infinity Gauntlet with the claws coming out of it, and it's called like Infinity Wolverine or something like that.
That sounds about right.
That's what we need. We need to make Wolverine cooler. If someone's sitting around going, "How can we make Wolverine?" You know, he's pretty underpowered, isn't he? Like in this day and age, he's not really offering much.
Do you know that they gave him an extra power when they brought him back?
I did not. You want to tell me about it?
Jesse knows more about it than I do because apparently they just explained it or started to explain it in the comics because like Return of Wolverine is on issue like 2 or 3 right now. But yeah, now his claws heat up.
I think I did hear about that actually.
So he's got the hot claws.
For what purpose?
Because they were already the strongest and sharpest thing in the universe.
I don't understand why they have to be hot now too. He can already cut through anything, can he?
Yeah,
I hate Wolverine. The only time I've ever liked Wolverine was when friggin' Hugh Jackman played him. But yeah, I'm on the Wikipedia right now, and it's absolutely astonishing how many characters that he created. And again, not all of them are great. He created Egghead. No one's really clamoring for Egghead, but he also...
Watch what you say about Egghead.
He created the Iron Man, the Fantastic Four.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, pretty much like the Avengers.
Fin Fang Foom.
I love Fin Fang Foom.
I
wish they would do more with him.
Stan Lee creation. I also loved I honestly knew Stan Lee more for his cameos at first than anything else.
Oh yeah. Which
and that's even before the Marvel cameos.
This is going to be my one dick bag opinion, but I stand by it.
Okay.
I am openly dreading seeing Avengers 4 opening night and the entire crowd erupting into applause whenever his cameo comes on, and every other Marvel movie because they've already filmed I think 5 of the cameos. So like for the next
which movies? Captain Marvel probably.
Captain Marvel, I have to imagine Far From Home, Spider-Man Far From Home.
Yeah.
They haven't announced which movies they are.
He was in freaking Venom.
But it would make sense that he would be in like whatever the next 5 are that are coming out.
Right.
So
it's weird to think that Stan Lee doesn't exist anymore. You know, on this plane.
Yeah.
I mean, of course he exists, but
it's not like he just disappeared.
He's not walking the earth anymore.
Right.
Like no more cameos, nothing, anything like that. It's
which I mean, we are still getting 5 cameos though.
Which will
but it's like, but the weird thing
will be weird to see.
It'll be weirder the first Marvel movie that we get where he's not in there.
Right. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Like that's
when we get to the first one where there's no cameo, nothing.
Because that's going to be a new story. Like it's like, oh, okay, so Ant-Man and the Wasp 2 or whatever movie that they do, it is going to be the first Marvel movie not featuring a Stan Lee cameo.
Right.
It's just like,
well, that wouldn't be the first movie not to feature Stan Lee cameo. There's been a couple he hasn't been in.
Which ones?
Well, I mean, I know these are stupid ones, but he wasn't in Daredevil or the Punisher movies at all.
I'm talking strictly like
Marvel MCU.
The MCU.
There was one that he wasn't in, and I'm trying to remember which one it was because I remember it being kind of a controversy thing.
Here, I'll try to look it up while you... Stan Lee not cameo?
Yeah, this is going to be a weird one.
But I feel like it's going... Like, if we look it up, it's going to be like, here's a list of every movie ever made.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of every cameo.
Oh, the Fantastic Four.
I
think it was the latest Fantastic Four movie, wasn't it? And people were like, well, that's weird that he's not in that.
See, I thought it was a mainstream Marvel movie because I remember people being upset and going, oh, why wasn't he in it? But was he in Black Panther?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to think of what his... Oh, yeah, he was. It was in the casino scene.
Oh, that's right, yeah. All right, so that's the question for the day. For you listeners out there, if you know which MCU movie Stan Lee did not cameo in, or if I'm just crazy, let us know in the comment section.
Apparently, he doesn't have a cameo in the next X-Men movie, in Dark Phoenix.
I'm not terribly surprised.
I'm trying to think of.
Apparently, Jubilee doesn't have a cameo in that movie either.
Well, yeah, but Stan Lee's important.
Son of a bitch. I like the Onion article that said Stan Lee, creator of beloved Marvel's hero Stan Lee, dies at 95.
That's pretty good.
But I found, because I'm a dick, I found a problem with that. I was like, well, he didn't create Stan Lee. His mom and dad did.
What?
How does SpongeBob cook underwater? It doesn't make any sense.
I was watching an episode because now that I'm at my grandparents' house sitting. They have satellite but no internet, so I'm just at the mercy. Yeah, I'm at the mercy of whatever is on.
Yeah.
But I caught an episode of SpongeBob the other day, and it was the one of someone sent SpongeBob an invite to a party, but the ink all smudged underwater. And he's like, clearly they don't understand the complex properties of life underneath water. Oh, well, might as well throw these in the fire. And they just toss them into a campfire that's right in front of them.
See, I feel like I would laugh at that.
No, yeah, it's amazing.
That would make
me
great. Laugh. What's your favorite Stan Lee created character? Because I know this is a hard question because he created so many. I already know mine.
I'm gonna go with fuck you, because
son of a bitch.
That's a hard one. No, I listened to the first 5 minutes of PWU.
Why? I warned you. It's the X-Men for me. I'm gonna throw out there. X-Men are.
So you said character, but then.
If I had to pick a specific character, it would be Magneto.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think Magneto is, and I've said it before on the show, Magneto is the most intricate. I mean, yeah, they screw him up, some depending on who's writing him, but his story, his backstory, his intention, his motives, to me, are the most sensical and actually emotional one. Like Magneto, you know why he's doing what he's doing. The best villains come from a place where they think they're in the right. And Magneto actually has a argument to be made that I think I even had problems with Thanos' logic in the Avengers. Mm-hmm. His whole destroy half the world so everyone else can live type thing. I thought that was kind of flawed, but I find very few flaws in Magneto's. I saw what happened when humanity goes against somebody and that stuff. So Magneto is my absolute favorite, but the X-Men are the reason I love comic books. Mm-hmm. When I was a kid, the X-Men were my comics. They still would be if there weren't 5 different variations. And I say that knowing full well that when I was a kid, there was already 20 variations. I just didn't read them. There was one called X-Men and there was one called Uncanny X-Men, and I read both of those.
Man, I don't... Also, looking up the list, the only thing that Stan Lee wasn't According to Yahoo Movies, the list of Marvel films that don't contain a Stan Lee cameo is Blade, Blade 2, X2, The Punisher, Blade Trinity, Elektra, Ghost Rider, Punisher Warzone, X-Men Origins Wolverine, X-Men First Class, Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance, and The Wolverine. So he was in all of the... I knew he was in all of the Marvel movies. It's just the X-Men movies that have been...
I wonder why.
And then, like I said, I don't think he was in the... I don't think he was in Fantastic Four.
He was in some of the X-Men
movies. He was in some of the X-Men movies, but not others.
I don't blame him for when you say that he wasn't in Fantastic Four. Okay, he was in the original Fantastic Four movie though,
with Jessica Alba and
yeah, because I remember he was trying to get to the wedding. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I think like the new one, and maybe I don't know if
which
he was
I still haven't seen. Have you seen that movie?
No, and I won't. No. They did bad. They should feel bad. I am not going to contribute to that. Like,
don't you have like a morbid curiosity though of
no
how bad can the car wreck be?
Like if someone else has it,
yeah,
and like already has given them money. Like
right.
I will watch this with them having no knowledge that I could have possibly watched this.
Yeah. Because I think it's on Netflix.
Ugh. That's too. If
you ever want to dive into
no, that's too close. I don't want them to see like, oh look, people are watching this on Netflix. Let's try it again. Get out. Give it back. Give us Doom. Give us Doom. Did he make Doom? Because Doom might be my answer. Doom's not my answer.
He did. I'm pretty sure he did make Doom.
I know he did the Fantastic Four, but Spider-Man. I think it's got to be. Which that'll change, and because he's made, yeah, he did create Doctor Doom. He's made so many, and if I had known we were going to do this for more than like a couple hours before the show, I would have researched this and like made a list because like I love Daredevil.
Right.
I'm still working through season 3.
I haven't even started it yet. I just finished American Vandal last night.
I'm still working through season 3 of Daredevil. I loved the Charles Soule run. I've been reading that on Marvel Unlimited because when you buy Spider-Man, you got a free month. And I've been reading it at work when we had downtime, which that's going away and has gone away a while back. But
do you think that, and it's going to be a weird question because so many people love these characters, but do you think they love the characters that Stan Lee created, or do they love the characters that he created but they've modernized and evolved? Right.
I mean, both. Because you wouldn't have those characters if he hadn't originally made them.
It's true.
Yes, I mean, and I'm sure there are things that have been done in Spider-Man's story that he didn't like, and
Right.
X-Men, and I'm sure there were all of these creative decisions, but at a certain point, you have to give up that ownership. And he seems to have, Stan Lee is a guy who never said anything negative publicly, it seems like.
Okay.
Even with, it seemed like he never had anything but positive things to say, even about things that were being torn to shreds by fans and critics. Do you know what I mean?
I thought you meant his personal life. You mean comic books wise?
Yeah.
Or both?
Well, I mean, maybe both.
Because I saw this one thing that I think Mimi posted it was a stupid article from a site called Red State, which again is a very
sounds like a really great
bias
website to go to.
But it was basically criticizing that the social justice warriors, quote unquote, who have come out of the woodwork to criticize Stan Lee because he was accused of sexual harassment and apparently bigotry. And they provided a speech he gave where he said something about somebody was bisexual and he said one sex was enough or something like that. And they took that and ran with it but also it gave absolutely zero, the source of how this person is a social justice warrior or what their ties are. It literally just pulled 3 random people off Twitter and said, oh, look at the SJWs now going after our beloved Stan Lee, which is terrible journalism, but I don't expect anything from a thing called
Something
Red
called
State.
the Red State.
If it was called Blue State and it was criticizing Republicans all the time, it would be the same thing.
Yeah.
That's biased media. But anyway, yeah, I saw a article from Stan's Soapbox. Well, you may have seen it today too. And I sent it to myself in case I wanted to read the whole thing. And I don't feel like I need to read the whole thing, but he was talking about the civil rights movement and his characters and stuff like that. And how he denounced racism and denounced bigotry and created the X-Men. Which is, my God, if you don't get the symbolism behind X-Men,
anytime anyone complains about comic books or superhero movies or anything like that being too SJW-y and comics need to go back to staying out of politics. What the fuck have you been reading? Because clearly it hasn't been comic books. Comic books have always been a bastion and a champion of equal rights and
justice.
Yeah, people like that are idiotic.
What? I don't know many superheroes that wouldn't fight the good fight. That's what superheroes are. They're supposed to be better versions of all of us. They defend the little guy and stuff like that. Yeah. Why would they stay out of politics?
Yeah. There's a character, which I know Stan Lee didn't create Captain America, but he was working with a company that was writing Captain America as fighting Nazis while there were actual Nazis.
Right.
Which, welcome back, I guess, but
would those people at that time period have started a crusade against it, saying well, why is Captain America fighting Nazis? Why can't he stay out of this and just go fight? Right. I don't know. I don't know any other Captain America villains other than Nazis. There's Red Skull and he's a Nazi.
It's Hydra.
Oh,
it's what the Nazis turned into.
No, that's what they wanted
Hydra.
to be. That's what they wanted to be. By the way, off topic, saw Overlord on Sunday. If you guys are wondering, go check it out. Very good movie. It's Call of Duty Zombies, the movie, pretty much. I liked it. It's good.
But you said it was less zombies than you were hoping it was going to be? Or?
More war, less zombies is what it was. But the war stuff was really, really good. So it was a good war movie, and they did have just enough monster in it. But I wanted some more monsters. And I wanted something different other than superhuman soldiers. But that's what they tagged it as. It's not like they tagged it as anything else. That was my own imagination going, oh, what kind of monsters they're going to have down in that facility. It's superhumans that are raising the dead. Yeah, whatever. It's fine. It's a good movie. Go see it if you can. We did have some comments from the fans about it. I posted about Stan Lee, and I asked for you guys to, leave some thoughts, and we actually have quite a few here. I want to read those off for you real quick before we move on. Kurt McDowell said his creations are some of my most fond memories that I've shared with my brother. Marvel has been something that he and I have been excited about for the last decade plus, and I owe that to Stan Lee. Normally, I'm not very touched by the passing of famous entertainers, but this one had some sting. And it absolutely does, because I know there are a lot of great comic book artists, but I can't think of any that's more well-known than Stan Lee. Like, he's the most iconic comic book guy to me.
No, I mean, he is the most iconic, like, comic book personality.
Yeah.
Like, the only person who, like, at this point, like, Robert Downey Jr. But it's because he is so famously and so belovedly played a character that Stan Lee created.
Yeah.
In a universe that Stan Lee helped mold and turn into what we have today.
Right.
So it's that thing where, comic books are, one of the first comic books I ever bought was it was an issue of X-Men. It was before I realized that they were like ongoing stories. So I thought they were all just going to be like little self-contained like one-shots.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what was going on, but I read it like 6 times just because it was super cool and I liked the X-Men.
And you thought, man, they really leave you hanging on this story.
Yeah, it's like,
what the hell?
I don't know what's happening at the beginning. I don't know how they got here, and I don't know what's going to happen next. Huh. This is weird.
Some of my most iconic moments that I can remember as a kid were from comic books. I mean, just some of the things that happened in them. X-Men, I had the issue where Magneto pulled the bones from Wolverine, which was amazing.
Yeah.
Illyana's funeral, Asteroid M, like so many, X-Men especially. X-Men was my jam.
Yeah.
But I had the Maximum Carnage series. Like, I actually collected them piece by piece because I love the Maximum Carnage series. I even bought the terrible $20.99 versions that came out. Or were they not terrible? Like, has history looked kindly upon them?
That I don't know.
Okay.
I know, I mean, they kept Spider-Man $20.99.
And that was the one that I had because I thought he was really cool and I love that suit.
Yeah.
But I also know there was X-Men, I think $20.99. There was Hulk $20.99. And I don't remember any of them doing well. Punisher $20.99. I actually had that one too. That one was not good.
That wasn't still Frank Castle, was it?
No.
Okay.
It was some random guy. I don't even know.
Yeah.
I hate the idea that they just take like old characters and just put new versions of them in. Because I know you can only do the same characters for so long before people get tired of them. And that's one thing I actually hate about comics is that they keep recycling like characters and storylines and kind of redoing them. But I have no idea in hell how you can have a character like Batman or the X-Men or Captain America, these guys, to go for like 40, 50, 60 years and people still want to read about them.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane to me.
Well, and it comes with, you have the different writing teams because they all have, their story that they want to tell with those characters. So, but at a certain time, like, yeah, you have to do more than just like one story arc. You have to be able to keep going. Like, look at Dan Slott's run. Dan Slott was on Spider-Man for like a decade. And there was a lot of really, really good. There was some really, really bad. But for the most part, like, he did a really good job with it. Now he's on, but he's just recently moved away and is on Iron Man. So,
all right, teach me about comics real quick. How do they get comic book writers?
Great news. There's a whole
you guys haven't covered this though
here on Podzilla 1985 called Nerds for Hire.
You haven't covered this one, and I can't wait till the next show, which will be next week. But still, how do they pick comic book writers? Do they invite them? Do you apply for? I want to write for this comic, or
yeah.
Like, I'm actually curious about
like,
that.
I don't know. Though I don't know the exact. I know there are people who start like independently until then they will apply and send, portfolios to
But they're independent
major
artists,
studios.
right?
Yeah. I mean, it can be. Like, you have independent writers, you have just people who have been writing or find someone or work under like places like Image or Vertigo or IDW, places like that. I know there's a lot of once you're in, you're kind of in type deal.
Like with the company itself?
Yeah, like once you get hired onto Marvel and you've shown that, okay, I can do this with this character, they may assign you to someone different. You may request to go work for someone different. Like, CM Punk really, really wanted to write a Punisher story, but he ended up writing Drax.
Yeah.
Which is essentially just Space Punisher, but
to be played by Batista. Was that before Batista got announced?
No, it was I think it was after.
Oh, it's the irony. Brian Rhodes, our good friend Brian Rhodes, who is a comic artist and actually has a successful series of comics, including Six Legs, No Heart, and Mike the Ninja, which you can pick up at a lot of the conventions around here, Cape, and I believe on his site too. Brian's a great guy. He said, growing up, my brother and I loved Marvel Comics. We were big X-Men fans. Of course you were. But we liked pretty much everything Marvel put out. When Marvel movies became a thing, along with the idea of a cinematic universe in which all of the movies interconnected, it was an exciting time. While Lee's direct involvement in writing, creating, editing for Marvel stopped long before we got into comics, all of the stories we read were built on the foundation he laid. So as a fan, it was a tough loss to take. As a creator, I think it's safe to say I would not be making comics today without Stan Lee's influence. And I think I'm probably the only person in the world at this point that's kind of sick of the Marvel universe, like movie-wise.
No, you and James Cameron. But he wants people to get sick of superhero movies so he can release Avatar 5 that he's got planned.
He hasn't even put out Avatar 2 yet.
Mm-hmm. You didn't listen to Nerd Up. Sigourney Weaver started filming for like 4 or something like that.
That's a joke, right?
I wish.
Derek Boxdorfer, who's currently watching wrestling probably, said, "Oh man, Spider-Man is my absolute favorite Marvel character ever. Always has been. Thanks to Stan Lee, that character was brought to life. I'll miss his cameos in the Marvel films with the quirkiness of him. He was a true light in a dark world." And then he did the quote, "With great power comes great responsibility," is a line that he came up with, and in a way, Stan had that great power with his comics and characters. He always knew he had, I'm assuming, to keep that balance. His characters have influenced people's lives and actions. My personal favorite thing about his characters are when people would dress up as Spider-Man or Iron Man or any other Marvel character and go to children's hospitals to bring a little light to those children's days. Without Stan, moments like that wouldn't be considered. His life transcends comic books alone. He will be missed. There's actually a really great group that runs out of, I've seen them at Perryville, and they're at all the conventions. And they do that where they dress up as superheroes and interact with kids. Have you seen them at the various thing?
Yeah, they've been at Villainous Grounds before.
I want to make sure I get their name right. Heroes for Kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great guys, nonprofit organization. Check them out on Facebook. We really love them. And Derek's absolutely right about that. Dalton Anthony, our good friend here on the show, says the X-Men. They're the only reason I am into comic books. I guess I also asked who your favorite is. He is and forever will be Nerd's loving uncle who always understood them even when society didn't. I agree with Dalton on the X-Men thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how anyone... Oh, God damn, he's got so many good characters, though. Joey Poole, when I was 6, my father passed. My mother and I then moved from St. Louis down to this area to start anew. I was angry, confused, and lost. My mother tried many things to get me out of the slump I was in, but nothing seemed to work, or I didn't take to it. It wasn't until my mother picked something up that would forever change my life. It was a Spider-Man comic. Every night she'd read me a new one, and it became our ritual, and it saved us. Forever after that, I had an attachment to Peter Parker and the guy that created him. Later on in my life, my mother passed when I was 24. I was lost and angry again. I decided to take it back up the hobby, and yet again, it saved me. Now, anytime I see a Spider-Man movie or read a Spider-Man comic, it hits me deep. Mm-hmm. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Was it? I believe it was not Alan Moore? Alan Moore's the asshole, right?
Oh,
I always get Alan Moore and the guy that did Sin City confused.
Frank Miller.
Okay, it's not Frank Miller. It's Alan Moore is the asshole who says that comics are for kids. Even though he writes comics, he doesn't seem to really like comics. Mm-hmm. And it's anytime I hear stories like that, it makes me think like the guy's full of shit because there's very clearly comics have touched so many people. And I think to dismiss it like that is a great disservice.
Yeah.
Plus, I just don't really like Alan Moore's writing. I'll go out on a limb and say it. I've read a couple of his comics. I've never really cared for him.
He's man, I don't even know I don't remember if it's Alan Moore because it was someone he created. Oh, I don't think it was Alan. I think it was Frank Miller.
What did he create? Man,
there was one of the characters that someone created. It was a Marvel. They were writing for Marvel at the time, and they created. I'm thinking of Frank Miller. He did a really, really D-bag interview because he didn't approve of the way Daredevil, the TV show, was using Elektra, because he created Elektra. So,
Frank Miller?
Yeah, so he thought that entitled him to be like they should have asked him.
I think I remember this story. Yeah,
they should have asked him to use Elektra. It's like, no, you do not own Elektra. Marvel owns Elektra.
Right. They can use whatever the hell they want.
Exactly. Which goes back to what I was talking about earlier with Stan Lee very much never taking that route. Because look at all of those characters he made. You know he watched X-Men Origins Wolverine.
He could have been very critical of a lot of stuff they did.
Right. But he
never made it public.
But he never made it public because he knew that there were people who were going to enjoy it.
Right.
And he didn't want to take away from that.
Yeah, he very much seemed like the kind of guy that was like he loved comics, he loved the culture, he loved the fans. Like it wasn't a paycheck to him.
Right.
Is how I felt. And I never knew the man personally. I never met him. But you just see a light in his eyes whenever he talked about it, or when he did his cameos. Like he just seemed like he was having fun, which we could get into the darker parts of the last few years of his life, and I think we would probably try to avoid it because this is a celebration of him.
Well, and it seems that he was treated not nearly as well as he deserved.
Right.
Allegedly, because there's a lot of weird stories going on there. But
yeah, which is a shame because he was such a loved and loving guy. Speaking of Mimi, she said, "We've lost a legend. I knew it was coming, but just didn't know it would be this soon. First Gary Frederick, and now him. I'm genuinely sad over this. He lived a good, long life, though, and he really did. 95 years old with a legacy left behind. Like, I don't think you could ask for a better life. Maybe a better ending, but the guy's life was absolutely incredible. And if my life could amount to 1/5 of what his did, I would be extremely happy.
Because like we even made the joke, about Egghead. There is someone out there
Who loves Egghead?
That's
his favorite character.
Yeah. It's there is. He's done so many. Like I encourage you, because clearly we're not going to like name them all, but you will scroll through and be like, he's responsible for Falcon.
Right.
Like let's just randomly scroll. The Mad Thinker, just like characters that may not,
I don't know.
Well, he also did Man Thing, but he's it's amazing his contributions.
Yeah.
To not just the Marvel universe, but society in general, because of just how much entertainment, how much these characters went on to mean to people.
Yeah. Yeah, inspiration is so big. I remember a Tupac quote, and I know this doesn't really relate to obviously what we're talking about, but he said that he would never change the world, but that his words would spark, someone that would change the world eventually. And I think it's the same thing with Stan Lee. Like his characters, somebody took inspiration for that, and they do great things. Maybe it's even just not being a dirtbag and treating each other properly, but like that kind of stuff. I always said I got more religion out of "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" than I ever did going to church, because the way that they presented it and the style, and just that it touched me in a way that church never did, made me believe in God more than anything else. And I think Stan Lee's comics would probably do that for someone else. They'd make them believe in justice or want to be a good person. And I mean that's immeasurable. You can't put a price on that.
And I would,
although prices of comics have gone up.
And I would make the argument that if someone was inspired by something Tupac said or something that Stan Lee created or whoever, then they did change the world.
Yeah,
because that inspiration is the spark, it wouldn't have changed without that spark.
Right.
So I would say that he's selling himself short there. But also like so it's easy to talk about Spider-Man as like and all of these superheroes that Stan Lee created. But what I think a lot of people overlook is the fact that he also created the supporting characters and the other characters in their world that really kind of humanized them. Because yes, Stan Lee created Spider-Man, but he also created Ben and May Parker and Mary Jane Watson and all of these, Betty Ross and all of these other characters that we so closely associate with
the
heroes.
Yeah.
And granted, yeah. When Stan Lee was writing and editing comics, it was an entirely different thing, but those characters he passed those characters on to other creators, and they were able to pick up the ball and keep running with it, and then evolving into what comics are today.
Which will evolve again eventually.
Oh yeah, and they're going to continue to evolve.
Yeah.
Now that, because we're constantly seeing all sorts of changes.
Yeah. And now it's also seeped into movies because when, growing up, I grew up in the 80s, and there were a handful of comic book movies at the time. Superman was out, and Batman. Batman was the first one that I could remember being big. Even though I think Superman was pretty big too.
Oh yeah, because Christopher Reeve was
right. He was a
household name.
But Batman was the first one I paid attention to, and I just remember how it changed me. The first Batman movie, and that was back at a time when comic book movies weren't like, they were mainstream, but they weren't mainstream. As weird as it sounds.
Well, they were. I think it's safe to say that a comic book movie was its own genre.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to, I would say that comic book movies are really no longer a genre.
No, they're just movies.
Now they're like you could argue that it's like Marvel movies, and Marvel has done it better than DC,
right?
Clearly, but we give the description all the time of like Ant-Man is a fantastic heist movie,
right?
That features a superhero.
Yeah.
Captain America: Winter Soldier is an amazing spy movie,
right?
But it's starring a comic book hero.
Yeah.
Because so at this, like
the superheroes aren't the leaders of the.
And there are people. It's so much easier to get someone to watch a comic book movie now than it would have been to get someone to go watch Batman.
Yeah.
Because Batman was strictly a superhero movie.
Yeah, my parents didn't want to watch Batman.
Right. Because why would I care about a comic book thing?
Yeah, it's for kids.
Yeah.
But now the Marvel movies are so popular. I mean, they make $1 billion every time, and even the ones that don't make $1 billion still make a good amount of money.
Oh yeah, like Ant-Man and Wasp was like
the poor thing.
Which, granted, this isn't a superhero movie, but Solo, the Star Wars story, was considered a disappointment because it only made like $350 million.
But it's Star Wars.
Only.
Yeah.
Insanity.
I forgot where I was going with this, but I think it was the fact that comic books, when Stan Lee first started making, and when Stan Lee started in the 60s, probably 50s. I think
so. I'm not. I'll look up his.
They definitely weren't making comic book movies then.
No.
I remember there were some serials for like Batman and Superman, I think, but Batman and Superman in the 80s were the first major ones, and now comic book movies are like the biggest money makers when it comes. I mean, these things are franchises, and you got to feel like Stan Lee smiled a little bit knowing that he had a hand in that. I mean, that was just incredible. I personally am kind of getting sick of comic book movies. I know that sounds weird, but they're kind of like Pixar movies to me. Every time I see a trailer for a new one, it just makes me think, oh, here we go again.
Yeah, but we're not getting 3 Pixar movies a year.
That's true. I can't get excited about the new Captain Marvel. I want to because I think it's going to be good, but I think it's going to be good the same way that every other Marvel movie is going to be good. Now, opposed to that is I saw like a teaser trailer for Joker, and it was just footage from the set, and it was like a fan-made thing, but I legitimately thought, I really want to see this movie.
For what movie?
Joker.
Oh, the Martin Scorsese one?
Yeah, because I thought, man, this looks interesting. Like, this looks like it's going to be different than your normal superhero films. It's not going to have like the insane graphics of a Marvel movie, but it looks like it's going to be an actual emotional roller coaster. And I hate the Joker, so they might actually make me like him as character.
Well, and it helps that they're not throwing that in the worlds of DC.
He's his own thing.
Yeah.
Although very clearly in one of the scenes, I mean, obviously you have to tie him to Batman. Mm-hmm. And there's a sign that says like blame Wayne, but it takes place in the 80s. So it's before
So it would be Thomas Wayne.
Yeah. And I'm excited about it. I want to believe that it'll be good, but
Stan Lee's first superhero co-creation was the Destroyer in Mystic Comics #6, August 1941.
Jeez. Excelsior.
Yeah, what's that?
God, that is. I wonder when he stopped doing comics, or I guess he never actually stopped doing comics in one way or another.
Well, he eventually quit. Not quit, but he stopped writing and actually became like one of the heads of Marvel for a while. So he wasn't doing like creative stuff there.
And he still has new stuff coming out. There's a show on Shudder now called Lucky Man that is by Stan Lee, and there was a great. Do you remember? There was a show on in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, that was Stan Lee's. It was like, so you want to be a superhero or something like that?
Yeah.
Where he would invite people on who had ideas and they would the winner would get their own like comic run of the superhero that they created.
Yeah.
That was an interesting show. I found that show to be very funny. Me and Lindsay used to watch that, and we were very entertained by it. That was a weird time period for television.
Yeah, he was one of the first to actually make superheroes flawed,
which they need to be.
Yeah. Oh yeah, which they absolutely do. But yeah,
and that's why I hate Wolverine. His only flaw is that he's so good. Cody Sandusky, our old friend and former co-host here on Podzilla 1985, had the sports show, which I miss. every day. Says, I never fully entered the comic book realm, but I was a huge fan of the 90s Marvel shows on Fox Kids. Same. It was my first time experiencing superhero stories and seeing how these characters that were outcast in some way, I primarily watched Spider-Man and X-Men, help people and fight evil anyway. As Brian noted, Stan Lee didn't have a direct hand in those shows, but he created a lot of the stories those shows recreated. As the MCU began and continues, some of the key figures of Marvel Comics constantly show themselves to be flawed people that strive to protect, save, help, do good for their fellow man. These traits, regardless of their existence in a fictional universe, have long pushed me to do my best in living those same traits out in my own life. He helped to create timeless characters with whom almost anyone can relate, and I will be forever grateful for that. Excelsior. And you can tell by your Facebook feed was flooded with tributes to Stan Lee. I have never seen a celebrity die, and I mean this, I've never seen a celebrity die that had as many tributes on Facebook as I saw for Stan Lee. None.
I mean, I'm trying to think, but this was I mean, because he completely changed the landscape in two separate mediums. Like, he completely changed comic books.
Yep.
In the 50s and 40s, 50s, and 60s. And then those comic books then went on to completely change movies.
Right.
With how the medium is perceived, how comic book movies are now just summer blockbusters.
They were looked down upon.
They went from a super niche market to the biggest movies of the year.
Yeah.
Marvel and Disney now holds, I think it's 8 of the top 10 grossing films of all time, with a handful of those being Marvel movies.
Right.
Because now it is mainstream, and a lot of that had to do with these characters that he created and these innovations in storytelling, with the whole, like I said, with making characters flawed, as opposed to just, the shining beacon, Superman type.
Because I jokingly said that about Wolverine, but Superman legitimately is his only flaw is that he's too handsome.
The only power that Superman doesn't have are the ones he hasn't tried yet.
I do want to, the more I think about it, I do want to read this Stan Soapbox thing, because I think it's so important. Because I know a lot of people that love comic books and talk about justice and all that, but maybe have the bad thoughts that he's really preaching against. And maybe you should reconsider the way you look at things. But I believe this is in the 50s or 60s. I don't know the exact date on it, but he wrote, let's say it right on the line, bigotry and racism are among the deadliest social ills plaguing the world today. But unlike a team of costume supervillains, they can't be hated with a punch in the snoot. They would disagree, though, that one guy got punched. Or a zap from a ray gun.
Yeah, and what happened to him after that?
Haven't invented a ray gun yet, by the way. The only way to destroy them is to expose them, to reveal them for the insidious evils that they really are. The bigot is an unreasoning hater, one who hates blindly, fanatically, indiscriminately. If his hang-up is a black man, he hates all black men. If a redhead once offended him, he hates all redheads. If some foreigner beat him to a job, he's down on all foreigners. He hates people he's never seen, people he's never known, with equal intensity, with equal venom. Now, we're not trying to say that it's unreasonable for one human being to bug another, but although anyone has the right to dislike another individual, it's totally irrational, patently insane to condemn an entire race, to despise an entire nation, to vilify an entire religion. Sooner or later, we must learn to judge each other on our own merits. Sooner or later, if man is ever to be worthy of his destiny, we must fill our hearts with tolerance. For then, and only then, will we be truly worthy of the concept that man was created in the image of God, a God who calls us all his children.
I need you to send me that. I mean, not now, but just as we're...
I'm going to send you the just the tweet link to it. He also did another one about... I'm not going to read the other one because it's also another really long one. But it's talking about, oh God, what was it?
I believe in you. You can do it.
Moralizing in stories. Basically the social justice warrior argument. He starts off by saying, from time to time we receive letters from readers who wonder why there's so much moralizing in our magazines. And he explains why it's important to do that. Basically all the things we said before. But yeah, when you read stuff like that, it doesn't sound like it's coming from a guy that writes comic books. Because when I was younger...
That sounds like it's like a philosopher or something.
Yeah, it sounds like a brilliant man. And I was always taught that comic books are for nerds and kids. And, maybe if we treated each other with that kind of intelligence and respect, we wouldn't have so many problems. That's not true. We'll always have problems. All right, I sent it to you. I don't know if that worked. I don't know how Twitter works. But her name is Jen Yamato, and I also don't know who that is. Okay, anyway.
There we go.
Did that come in okay?
Yeah, I got it.
All right.
God, Twitter's so weird.
I personally don't like Twitter. But we could talk about Stan Lee all night. We actually only have about 15 minutes left, so we just want to say that it's very sad that Stan Lee passed away. I think we should celebrate the man's career, and it of course touched all of us here. And even though he may not hear this, I don't know how the afterlife works. I'm working on it, but he will be missed, and I think this is one guy that his legacy will live on. So, other than Stan Lee, there's nothing to talk about.
It's really not.
I don't even know what's happening. Fallout 76 comes out tonight. Immediately following the show, I'm going to go pick it up, and I'm going to take it home and play it. And I am so scared about buying Fallout because all I've heard are bad things. It's one of those things that, like, I have not heard anyone say anything positive, and I am holding out hope that everyone is wrong, that this is just the haters getting on their soapbox, looking down on the good games because they're mad that it's not their Fallout.
And I think that's what a lot of what
I hope. So.
I think that's what we're getting a lot of. Although Greg Miller, who does Kind of Funny, who if you listen to the show, you know I'm a huge fan of. He was talking to someone, and he's played the beta, but he didn't get like early access or anything to it. Mm-hmm. And his impression was he wanted to play more of it, not necessarily because he was having fun. It's just he couldn't really land on how he really felt about it.
Yeah.
But he also had like a great encounter with one of his fans coming up to him and like guiding him through stuff and like, oh, when we can go check this out and stuff like that. So if you can get like a group of people or even just like one or two people to play with, I feel like it's going to be fine. It's just everything that I've seen on it, like some of the early reviews talking about how playing it by yourself, like it is just a traditional Fallout game, doesn't work.
Right. But I mean, it's marketed as a multiplayer game.
Yeah, it is. But you remember after E3 when they announced this?
Oh, and all the people.
And like 3 days later, they had to actually specifically say, like they had to come out and be like, no, this is not a single player Fallout.
Right.
You can play it alone, but it is a multiplayer. You are playing with there are other people in that world.
Right.
And because everyone was like, no, they said that it's like you could do single player stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we never did. It's that fandom of, it's like me and the Heroes for Hire. Oh, they canceled Iron Fist and Luke Cage.
Because they're building up
because now they're
towards-
just going to combine them into one show and it's going to be Heroes for Hire, which I don't think is going to happen. But no. And then I also saw that, I think one of the things he mentioned is it's how you have to keep track of eating and drinking.
Yeah.
And apparently it's a lot.
Yeah, but we said the same thing about Red Dead. We're like, oh man, this micromanagement's going to kill us.
It is by far my least favorite thing of Red Dead, and it does greatly impact. Because now instead of dealing with eating or drinking or refilling any of my cores, I just go to bed. I set up camp, I go to sleep, and then I waste a day. I waste time. Because it's like I don't want to have to worry about recipes and stuff. It's only if I'm like in the middle of doing something and I was like, oh, this is getting low. Well, now, okay, I'll eat something then. But I'm like, if it's getting towards sundown and I'm still like a 3-minute ride because there's no fast travel in the game, that's worth a damn.
Right.
I'm like, all right, well, I'll just set up camp, go to bed, and then I'll have all full stuff whenever I'll feed my horse when I wake up and brush my horse because you got to do that too.
Have you ever played any of the survival, like the multiplayer survival games like...
Minecraft is the only thing that would even come close.
Really? So
Yeah.
you never played like Conan Exiles or anything
Nope.
like that? So, and that's one thing is like I am prepared for Fallout 76, I think, because I played Conan Exiles and it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. You start off, there's other people there, you have to eat, you have to drink or you'll die, you have to build fortifications, and basically it's a sandbox. Explore the world as you want it and go do what you want. But the biggest difference to me between this Conan Exiles and Fallout 76 is that Conan Exiles, even though it's not an indie game per se, it does not have the budget of a Bethesda.
Right.
So the fact that Bethesda is making Fallout 76, it's like, okay, so I'm going to get the style of Conan with the online and stuff, but it's actually going to work. Because there are times I played Conan, Bob and I played it together and had a great time. But we would... tribesmen, I forget what they're called, Picts, I think, would come after us, and we'd shoot at it, and then they'd move, and then they'd teleport left, and then they'd like stop and stand still and stare at the sky, and then chase us again. Like it was so glitchy and buggy. Mm-hmm. Now, I know Bethesda doesn't exactly have the best record of not releasing glitchy, buggy games, but I feel like at least the mechanics are going to be better, and it's going to feel like a game and not like someone threw it together quickly.
See, and it's kind of like the Call of Duty Blackout mode. It's PUBG if PUBG worked.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Bluehole's a small team, it's a small independent team, and they're doing what they can, but
they're not Activision.
right.
Yeah.
And they don't have those resources. They don't have the unlimited water spout of money that places like Activision have.
I want to play more Blackout mode. I really, really do. What are your thoughts, real quick, while I got you? We got a couple minutes left. Did you ever? You started on World of Warcraft when we did with us, right? Like when you played with me and Jesse, that was the first time you ever started playing it. You didn't play it a long time ago.
No, yeah, it was whenever I was living in that house in Jackson.
Okay,
because I played with you guys, and then there was a couple people from Red Lobster that I played with.
Well, the reason I ask, we talked about Activision, and of course, Activision owns Blizzard now, or Blizzard owns them. I forget how it works.
Activision owns Blizzard.
All right, Blizzard is going to release a classic server soon for World of Warcraft. And I didn't know how you felt about that, if you had any opinion, because I'm kind of curious.
Don't care. My favorite part of it is years ago when people were when they were shutting down the custom servers, and people were begging for it. Blizzard's official statement was, "You think you want this, but you don't," because that kind of goes hand in hand with the "What? You guys have phones, don't you?"
It is such a different experience, the classic server, and I can't wait for them to come out just so I can. And they're kind of right, because I guarantee you, Allie and Lindsay both. Lindsay keeps saying, "Oh no, I played the classic," but and she may have, but not nearly to what she plays now.
Right.
Allie is gonna be lost because it was so different back then.
Yeah.
They had talent trees for one, so you could actually spec in whatever you wanted. The quest did not have circles around where you need to go. You actually had to read the text and figure out where you were going.
Needed to go.
Yeah, they're gonna be so lost because I love playing World of Warcraft with them, but the way they play is that the quest comes up, they just click accept. They don't read anything, and they just look at the map and go, "There it is. Let's go there." Different world.
I do both because I don't think we talked about it on Nerd Up, but Prima Guides is closing.
Yes, very sad.
And granted, I'm part of the problem because I did used to buy guides all the time, but once
Internet,
Game FAQs,
yep,
and IGN.
Yep.
Now that they do a Wikipedia for everything, or they do a wiki walkthrough for everything, that's how I play games. Because that's like I'm the worst kind of gamer, I guess, because I like being told exactly what to do.
Really, I'm the opposite.
I don't super like figuring stuff out, and they're like in stuff like Red Dead. I will like there have been things that I'll be like, okay, I want to figure out. Like I'll try to figure this out. But then there are other times where it's like, okay, well, I want to get this thing. Like I went hunting for the legendary ram, and I was like, well, I want to figure. I don't even know how to hunt legendary animals. And when I went to the area, because I found the area on the map, when I got there, it's like, oh, there's too much activity, and I'm like, well, what the hell am I supposed to do?
What does that mean?
So internet, like I'm gonna go check that out. But if I get stuck, like if I get stuck in a game, I start to lose interest, especially if it's a type of thing that seems like if it's a thing that I have figured out. Like, oh, I have to put X, Y, and Z in this order, and then this thing can happen. But my character in the game can't actually get to X because you have to do some menial thing first. I hate that. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's
the progression of the quest where you can't go here till you do this first.
Right. But even if I know what I have to do, if I haven't done the thing where it's like, oh no, you have to figure it out. Well, no, I already solved it.
Right.
Just let me do it.
No, your character has to figure it out.
Yeah. I hate stuff like that. So I get distracted, or like not distracted, but I get frustrated. So I just like, well, nope. If you're gonna make me do this, this is dumb.
Have you?
So that's why so that's why I would always buy. If I bought a new game, I would buy the guide to go with it, because I'll work on it and figure it out. But once I kind of hit that wall, I would be all right. Well, nope. I'm not. This isn't worth it. Oh, I got to do this. Okay.
That's how I was in Final Fantasy XI, the online game, because I had no idea what to do. There was one quest where I was trying to become, I think, like a samurai, and you had to actually do a quest for the job to get it. And I'm like in the spot, and I'm with my friends, and I'm like, I have no idea what we're supposed to be doing there. Like, oh, you have to find this one feather on the ground over here in this corner. Like, how would you know that?
Yeah.
How the hell would you ever know that?
And that's the other side of it, is like the stuff where it's totally like Shenmue is my nightmare of, oh yeah, you need to get the key out. You need to get you need to unlock this desk drawer and you need to find the key. Well, I hope you petted that dog 6 hours ago.
Because he would
point and click adventures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
No, I cannot do that. Just the absolute bullshit that comes with some of those.
Have you ever heard of the game The Secret World?
Mm-mm.
It's an MMO. It used to be. I think now it's under a new name like Secret World Legends, and it's still an online game, but it's it was persistent before, and now I think it's just like a multiplayer, kind of like a Diablo thing. But when it first came out, I was super excited about it. It was made by, I think, Perfect World, and it was a modern MMO, like World of Warcraft, but in modern times, and it dealt with the Illuminati and conspiracies, and it was very Lovecraftian, like the monsters and stuff like that. It was super cool, but the quest system was so unique. There was one quest where they told you, okay, you have to find the secret hideout to this place. I think I'm some of this I'm getting wrong.
Yeah.
But go to this art gallery, and you have to figure out how to get in from this art gallery. And that's all they would tell you. You had to go to the art gallery where there were literal paintings there, and you had to use either the in-game browser or your own browser to figure out which painting was a fake. They didn't tell you.
Oh, wow.
So you had to actually compare the real painting to what was on the wall to figure out which one was a fake, and then from there you could keep going with the mission. Or there was another one where the clue to open this door was like something about a Bible verse, and you go into the church, and then up on the board of today's hymns or whatever would be the Bible verse that you need to do it. You actually had to use your brain and think about it. I really wish that game hadn't been so shitty, like the mechanics, because the combat was awful. Because that is so cool. I've never seen that in a game before. Allie and Lindsay's brains would explode if they had to actually figure shit like that out.
And
But to me, I thought it was awesome.
right, no, and that is super cool. And like that's a thing that I would try. But as soon as I got frustrated with it, okay, screw it. Just tell me where it is. Like, let me look. I will go to IGN and
just look it up.
Because that's kind of like, that's one of the things that, because Game of the Year discussions are coming up. I still heavily think that God of War is my favorite game of the year so far. But it's one of the things that I think Spider-Man actually did better than God of War, is that once you unlocked all the towers, they told you exactly where all the, like, okay, you got to find 50 backpacks. Here they are. Just go there and then, yeah, you kind of had to do a little bit of searching.
Right.
But that's just where they are, because that's how I like to play games. And that is a totally personal choice. I understand if a lot of people were like, no, I don't want to know that. Just let me find them. Because especially collectibles. Because God of War, I don't think there was any parts like puzzle wise that I needed to like look anything up on. But the collectibles, I absolutely just had my phone open next to me on IGN. Okay, where are all of the shields? Like where are all of the shield fragments and masks? Right. Like I'm gonna do that. And like the Valkyrie fights.
Right.
I would die like 2 or 3 times, and if I couldn't figure out like the pattern or what I needed to look for, okay, how do you beat this Valkyrie? Oh, you have to keep for which way if it's something I missed, because I'm an idiot.
Right.
Like it takes a lot for me to pick up on even like super obvious things.
Well, some games explain it better than others. I think if the game explains it, like if they give you hints on it, like World of Warcraft with the old quest system, they would tell you, okay, she was last seen. There's a quest, a really, I say memorable, but I guess notorious, infamous quest about this one character's wife, and you had to find her body. And people couldn't find it. They were just like, where the hell is it? They'd have to look up the guide. But he tells you in the quest, if you go here, she was somewhere seen around there. And if you looked around a little bit, you would find her body on the ground. But people just didn't want to do that. It was like, well, I want you to tell me exactly where it is.
Right.
Tell me now and let me go.
Just put a nice little point on my map.
Again, I started on Ultima Online where there were no quests.
Yeah. Just go in.
Just go do whatever you want.
Go be.
And I like to lord that over people like I'm the shit. Like, oh, when I started, but I went back and tried to play Ultima Online, and I hope Brian Rhodes is listening because he also played Ultima. They made it free to play, and if you had an account, I'm like, cool. I'm gonna go back and play. Man, I miss Ultima. Cool. I went back and I'm just like, oh my god, this is boring. What am I doing? Like, there's no point to any of this.
You have no goal.
There's no goal. What, like, and I'm like, what did I play it for back then? I guess it was new, and it was different, and there was nothing like it. But man, looking back on us, like, how did it ever survive this long? Cape Championship Wrestling's YouTube page has more subscribers than the official YouTube page for Ultima Online. That is what it's become. Let it die. That's my rant.
Well, I know when you start.
I love sandbox, and that's what I'm hoping Fallout is a sandbox game that I can enjoy. Okay.
Yeah.
Full circle.
I don't know. I hope you like it. I am not a fan of any of the Fallout games, but that's just, again, a personal thing.
Well, I'm scared because my favorite part of Fallout is modding them. And I know they said that you will be able to mod this game eventually. Yeah, he's doing the air quotes.
Eventually.
Rightfully so. And I'm scared that just the base game won't be enough for me. Like, I'll play it and just be like, oh, good. Oh, I'm back to using this old busted ass like pea shooter made of tin cans instead of these high tech weapons that I downloaded as mods.
And it's, I don't know, it's the time period in the lore of Fallout, I think might be interesting for you, since you are the first
you're
people
coming
out
of the
there,
vault.
like, so there's not going to be other humans.
The setting is really cool, and they drew a lot of like the mythology from actual urban legends, like Mothman and stuff like that. Yeah, so I'm excited about all that stuff. I really, really want to like this game, and I've never been more afraid to pick up a new release than I am.
Honestly,
for this one.
I think if your expectations are in check, if you know that you can't just play this this isn't Fallout 5,
right?
This isn't Fallout New Vegas. This isn't 4. You're gonna have to play it like that. You're going to have to, you need to, like, if someone is listening to this and you're screaming at your phone because you're super excited for Fallout, reach out to us. Like, what system are you getting it on?
Xbox.
On Xbox. So, send Shannon a message and be like, hey,
let's play.
I will play this with you. Because even if you get, like, one other person on mic, I feel like you're going to have more fun with this.
Especially if you're, like, really hot. Boy or girl. I don't care. Christ. If you're really hot. And if you're a girl, if you're an attractive girl, play an attractive girl. You know,
to let him know,
because
he's not going to hit on the guys.
No,
he's only going to hit on the girl characters.
When I played I think the first game I ever got Lindsay to was Warcraft, I think, and then or maybe it was EverQuest 2. I forget which one, but she tried EverQuest 2 at one point because I always tried to get her to play games with me, and I made this handsome knight, long hair, like I dreamed of, and she made a goddamn lizard woman. So now I'm traveling around the hot knight and his lizard girlfriend. And I'm like, this ain't going to work. You're going to have to re-roll. And she refused. So then I re-rolled and I made a giant frog knight. Sons of bitches. And we started a guild called the Battletoads. Suck it. All right, that's the show for tonight. We'll be back tomorrow with Pro Wrestling Unscripted. And we have a lot to talk about, including some unfortunate business that happened on Monday. And we're not just talking about the show, Raw. Something that happened on Raw that has changed the main event, or at least one of the main events, of Survivor Series. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. Until then, you guys take it easy. Remember, patreon.com/Podzilla1985 if you want to support us with your wallet. We always appreciate it. More importantly, facebook.com/Podzilla1985 so you can interact with us, and Podzilla1985.com if you want to listen to the old episodes. You guys take it easy. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night. Play Fallout. Later.